首席区块链专家但是我是到这个中国2年不到，所以我可能还是用英文回答来问你的问题可能比较好一些。So you actually touched upon very important question, like you said scalability may be an issue, but some application like even low frequency or medium frequency important, like it could be okay, like some of application, but security is the main problem. I also see this, especially the smart contract, like it can hold a lot of assets, like parent day or also the door, right? So there is some patterns, security patterns I saw in Medium or in Ethereum or even Consensus published some books or best practice papers. What do you see moving forward in terms of this security? Because it's really important. I think the main reason some of blockchain projects can fail is really security. It's the law, like it's a very good promise, but eventually it bankrupt because of the security. The EEA is the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. I don't know what's the relationship between you and the EEA, right? They are focused also on the privacy and security perspective, also including the High Pledge project. So I think collectively we need to make the security as one of the top priority in the development of blockchain. That's why my next topic, if I'm still in Shenzhen, I will be giving this. Welcome everyone, come here, right? My question now, now I'll come back to the question, right? So in terms of your relationship with EA, because we talk with EA as well, they focus on this, like how you partner with them. And also the follow-up question, maybe unrelated. You met with Putin, right, in May, and what are you talking about?
That's cool.
So the question is, what is the relationship with EEA?
No, it's a question about the relationship between me and Putin.
That's security, because they actually launched some investigation on the security of the blockchain, right?
Yeah, no, so the Ethereum Enterprise Alliance is fully independent of the Ethereum Foundation, so it is a separate organization. I do spend a lot of time talking to and working with all the different members in the EEA, so we are close, but we're not officially tied together. Regarding Putin, I talked to him for about 1 minute. I told him blockchains are cool. He said,
That's it? What do you say?
I don't know.
No.
Not that much.
Okay, let's try to ask questions so we can get more questions out. Brief questions, please.
你好，我是本地的一个创业者，和关注投资的一个人，我就用英文和中文问你吧。I'm wondering the human history and digital access, the relationships. 我是问一个关于我们人类和数字财富的一个关系的一个问题。And today we have the data about the currency and gold and stocks. It's totally worth equal to 190 trillion. 190 trillion. 我们现在呢有190万亿的财富，包括货币、金子和股票。在那个 and the digital access leading by Bitcoin is 60 billion. 我们的数字财富有600亿美金。That two digits is 3,000. 3,000 today. 今天这两个数字比较是1比3000。And today,
Sorry, what was the question?
the question is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to give everyone a chance. Yeah.
Okay.
The
question is.
机会啊。
The question is, the coming 8 years, the one will become 10 or 100.
Over 300.
3,000。
Wait,
我的问题
Total
是，
supply?
我的问题是，数字财富会不会在未来的8年变成3000%、30%，或者数字财富有没有一天超越我们的那个传统财富？因为有个数字，在公元1776年的时候，
Okay. Thank you.
纸币已经超越了黄金、金属的货币了。
我不知道。
No, the price.
I would actually like to ask, we're a very gender unbalanced audience. I would like to give a chance if any women in the audience would like to have a question, just to be more equal.
Okay, thank you. I'm a co-founder of a fintech company based in Hong Kong. So basically, we are developing like insurance application structure on the blockchain. So going back to the parity issue, there's a lot of money get lost due to the small bugs in the libraries. Just wondering any golden rules or recommendations you can do to test the smart contract.
There are
We're
a lot
making a
of
book.
testing utilities for smart contracts already, and we can definitely do testing, and we can definitely do more testing. The main challenge with testing by itself is that testing is a good way to make sure that the intended behavior works correctly, but it's not that good at catching the existence of unintended ways of accessing the system. So I think testing is important, but it is only a partial solution.
Hello, my name is Raj from IBM. First of all, I would like to thank you for taking your time coming to Shenzhen. And secondly, when I look at you, I just remember Apple CEO, Steve Jobs. So I hope you have a good future. My question is, IBM is also investing a lot in blockchain, and you may know there is already a lot of business application in large companies. So my question is, how do you see the blockchain development from the companies like IBM and also companies like Ethereum? So how they are going to go, or what do you see the difference or similarity? Thank you.
So I would say the thing that Ethereum is trying to optimize for specifically is this idea of being very general purpose. So of being designed to be usable for as many different applications as possible, including large enterprise, including small business, including individual developers and individual users. And personally, I think most of the large companies that are in the blockchain space are going to have to find some way to make a profit. And so they're going to gravitate toward some specific sectors where they can specialize in and provide a lot of value in those sectors. So I think that a lot of these projects are going to end up providing quite a bit of value. Where I think Ethereum's value is going to be particularly is in trying to serve those projects where there isn't any something that's trying to be designed for that specific exact use case, right? So in those areas where each individual area might be smaller, but where the total set of different things that's being done is much larger. So things like cross-industry communication, any kind of global applications, anything where it's too hard to kind of standardize on anything that's less general purpose, I think would go into Ethereum. And I think that things like Hyperledger and Corda are already starting to focus more on some particular verticals. And I'm sure that if they do a lot of work in those verticals, then they can do very well there.
Okay, this guy's question.
Vitalik, I'm Mark. I'm from Silicon Valley. I guess one question, I know you're into geopolitics, and you love having discussions about government structure. Geopolitics,
Okay, sure, yeah.
just like government, this is more of a philosophical question.
Go ahead.
Have you heard of the Venus Project?
The Venus Project, that project that's trying to build like cities that are very environmentally friendly. And
Well, the resource-based economy.
yeah, resource economy. Yeah.
So I don't know if you know about anything about that system, but basically along the lines of just to shorten this thing.
I've watched a 20-minute YouTube video.
Okay, so how like computers sort of run government and everything because people
Yes.
can't be trusted. Blah, blah, blah. How do you feel philosophically with Ethereum moving forward, building a foundation for a society that's more controlled by AI or more controlled by algorithms and computer code?
I think that algorithms and computer code definitely do have a place, but I think that it is kind of separate from blockchain. It's not exactly the same thing as blockchains necessarily, right? Because like the kind of computing that is AI is computing where it's about where the computer itself is thinking. Whereas blockchains are more about organizing together different people or organizing together people and possibly computers. Where
different AI?
Yeah, exactly. So like blockchains are more about systems where most of the thinking happens on the outside. So I can see blockchains as being very useful as a kind of economic glue for building various kinds of institutions. And the kinds of institutions that you end up building on top of it are, basically your choice, and it's up to any individual developer to figure out what they want to create.
Hi, I'm from a financial institute, and we are evaluating some blockchain-based trading platform solutions. My observation is most of the solutions are still centralized, but just using blockchain as a trustworthy data synchronization mechanism. However, considering the original design purpose of blockchain is actually for decentralization and B2B trading. What do you think about it? Do you think it's actually getting away from the original design, or maybe more strictly speaking, it's just maybe too early to have blockchain as the fundamental technology to treat the physical asset, where you always need a centralized authority to prove the truth of the physical asset? And the related question is...
So, first question first. I think, so even in a world where everything runs on blockchains, many centralized things are still going to exist. And so, like, I view the purpose of blockchains as not necessarily being the thing that absolutely everything is built on, but more this kind of digital layer for kind of economically and informationally gluing different applications and their users together. So I think it is totally fine if there are centralized applications that use blockchains for one specific part of their operations.
Any suggestion or your opinion?
As long as, but I think what is important though is making sure that the kind of the mix of centralization and decentralization that you're including makes sense. So for example, if you have an exchange, and this exchange is just publishing every transaction on a blockchain, then you want to ask, what is it getting out of that? So does this give the ability for anyone any member of the public to audit the blockchain and to make sure that the application is running correctly? Does it allow people, users of the application to verify that their transactions were processed correctly? So if you have an application, if you have some kind of integration that's partially centralized and partially decentralized, but the part that is partially decentralized actually does provide guarantees to your users and actually does reduce the extent to which your users need to trust you, then you have something that is still useful. But you have to make sure that you are giving that help.
Okay, we're going to do a few more questions and then we'll take maybe a 5 or 10 break.
Hi, my name is Sarah. You touched on it briefly, but in addition to kind of the energy efficiency portion, can you elaborate a little bit more about kind of Casper and proof of stake and your vision, aside from obviously the energy